the key on this deferral program is not to think of it as interest savings. If you're paying $300 for the process of the lien and everything else, it's probably a net loss as far as that goes from an interest standpoint. So if I'm a builder looking at that, it wouldn't really be enticing the way it's set up as it is right now. Moving to sheetrock in the final draw, that's really all you're saving is the interest from building permit to draw there. So if you were able to move it into the closing somehow, and I can do a little bit more research on why it hasn't happened, but a lot of it is just the restriction in lending that have happened more recently, wherein before it wasn't really. This deferral issue is really coming out of the lending restrictions that are going on. So if your impact fees have gotten to a point where they're affecting your ability to get a loan, that's why all this deferral momentum is going on right now. So it's the way it is right now. It protects the city. I think doubly protects the city with a lien, and then also at the sheetrock inspection. But if you have occupancy issues going on, that's probably beyond the scope of what's going on here in the deferral. So it may affect that to some degree, but I think that's a broader issue than what would be at jeopardy here. So for $4,000 with a $3,000 fee attached to it, not real excited as a builder right now. You may get a couple folks that this, because of whatever situation they're in financially, works out. But as a giant stimulator for housing in Washougal, I don't think it's going to have that big of an impact.
May I ask you a question? The center, they have this plan, and they do charge a fee for the cost of recording. I think it's $300. Do you know if this has stimulated anything out there? Because talking to the planner out there, they said although there was a lot of interest, only one person has decided to do it.
Snow, the developer that is using it right now, there's only like 4 different developers that are doing it there. So I don't know statistically.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, yeah, there's one that's using it, and it really comes back to the financial situation of the company. If you have the ability to get loans, again, you can secure those loans. If you're kind of at that, right at the brink, this really helps. So for that particular developer, this situation really helped that developer out. But for the other ones, they may not have needed it, or something else came up.
I would also say too, when we look at this discussion about impact fees, I think we need to look at it more in a 5-year window than just the immediate impact, no pun intended. But yeah, I think that we have to look at it as a component to what we're trying to do at large. So when we're developing this plan or this program, we need to make sure that what it is trying to do, what it's designed to do, is to attract business to come in. If that's the business of building a home, residential, commercial, or industrial, this is just a component of a bigger picture. And so, we're not going to make money off of impact fees at the rate we were in 06, 07, 05. It's not coming. But when that time does come, we'll be sitting really pretty to attract those businesses or those residential builders to come back into the community. And then we can look at how do we start to capture that and get rid of the deferral. But I think we have to look at this more on the long term than we are necessarily just the immediate impacts of this.
Which brings up a point. One of the emphasis that you brought to your administration is the business-friendly environment. And I greatly support that. I ran on it. It's another aspect of this to attract businesses. And the whole thing is just another aspect. Which brings up a point, Joanne. You mentioned in here somewhere looking at it 12 to 18 months down the road, I've forgotten which, to see whether we want to continue it. Given the economic climate and the fact that it's going to take a while for builders to become aware of this and to go through the exercise of learning how to do it and everything, I think that's a pretty short time frame. I would think somewhere between 3 to 5 years would be more appropriate. We can always bring it back if we have to and take a look at it if it's causing us problems. But except for that, give it some time to run and see what it does for us.
I've forgotten, does this include the system development charges for water and sewer?
No.
It does not.
No, and that, excuse me, Public Works.
No, go ahead.
Actually, I believe that that's the largest cost of a building permit is the system development charges. And I believe personally that that's an area that needs to be looked at. But again, that is a balancing act because we need that money to improve our system. So
Yeah.
how do we, but that, to me, that's the largest, that's way beyond the cost of impact fees.
Maybe you know or you don't, Jim. Off the top of my head, it seems to me that once we get to 80% of our water system capacity or our sewer system capacity, we have to start putting a clamp on building permits. Is that true?
I'm not sure what the percentage is, to tell you the truth.
I'm not aware of that. I know that when you do your comprehensive plan update, you have to provide a capital facilities plan that shows how you're going to serve the population that's estimated to be in that area and how you're going to pay for it. But, I mean, there's percentages about whether you can expand your urban growth boundary based on, you have to have used a certain percentage of residential already or commercial.
Are those the infill statistics that we use sometimes where we see how much infill there is and how much of a space is available within the city limits when we start talking about moving out into
Yeah, we analyze first
for build out?
whether we are going to, have higher densities in certain areas so that we don't have to go out into the farmland.
But some of those same statistics then would be used in your system capacity as well then, right?
I don't know that they're the same, but there is something.
And then it seems to me that, I may have it wrong, that there's also a limitation on, to use the technical term, concurrency in transportation. That once and concurrency is basically how long you have to wait at an intersection. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Sorry, concurrency really is more of that the facility has to be available concurrent with development. In other words, concurrent with development.
But
Unless Mike corrects me.
If you don't have,
That's the concept.
if you don't have enough transportation capacity, you're limited as to what you can do for building, for population expand, for growth.
For growth. Right, the county, you would be appealed. Your comprehensive plan would be appealed if someone felt that you weren't providing services for the population that's given to you by the Office of Financial Management.
John, go ahead.
Yeah, the connection fees, and please tell me where I'm wrong here, but if we were to do a deferral on the connection fees as well, and wrap that in with the same time as the impact fees, they can't sell a house that doesn't have running water. Does that make sense? I
Well,
mean,
they
it
need
would
their
almost.
water earlier
Yeah.
during
What's that?
construction.
Yeah, they
Okay.
need it
But
during
your
construction.
concept is
Do you get where I'm
good.
going with that, though? I mean, the
Battleground has a couple things, like, for commercial and industrial, where they can, pay those fees in the monthly bill, but that's just for commercial and, industrial. So in a way, that's deferring it. I would have to defer to, Public Works, but I think it's an area that I think that they should look into.
And I would concur